Welcome, welcome, welcome. Adriane Hartigan von Strauch, your quantum love coach, your Mars Venus love coach, greeting you from beautiful New Zealand. I'm back home in Auckland for a little while, and my sincere apologies. I record the monthly full moon Q&A a few days after the actual full moon. This month, I have been not well with a chest infection last week, and you might hear it still in my voice that it's still there, but I want to get right into the reading and into the Q&A. The oracle cards that appeared this morning to use for this recording for our time together here today is the beautiful Rose Oracle created by Rebecca Campbell. There's another of her wonderful decks I have in BALI. I use very, very frequently. And as usual, I do it all live in here and present my reflections unprepared and just intuitively in the moment. So the card that's coming up as first card is Sub Rosa, Hidden in Plain Sight, Mysteries, Learning and Teaching. Now, I will not read the chapter out. I just will channel what comes through. And I had a second card appearing, the Wild Rose, and that is a very, very, very beautiful card. I have been given in a very specific personal reading last week. And number 3, the grandmothers. And how wonderfully resonating this is with a time where we just passed full moon in Aries. Now, Aries is a very, very dynamic, very, very fiery sign. It's all about new beginnings, and it's all about the opportunities we are destined to seek and really grab and make new things happening in our life. However, the big learning in the middle is 2 things. Number 1, that we really need to release the past and let things go and be able to face all the mysteries, like, you know, this wonderful Sub Rosa card is saying, learning and teaching, really learning from the past. It's not just saying, okay, I let go and I find something new, but in order to do it right and to be prepared for the next path or part of this path on our journey, we really, really want to be very, very uniquely tuning into what's right for us. And the Wild Rose is do it your way, embrace your uniqueness and being untamed. And, you know, I had people trying to coach me lately and saying, why don't you do it this way? And why don't you do it this way? And that person had successes this way. And, you know, maybe you should not do this way. And I can really, really relate to those personalities, and I'm one of them, who operate in a very, very different fashion. You know, I have a wealth of knowledge in me, and I have a wealth of love and compassion to share for the lives and the work and the love of others. However, I would never, ever completely 100% copy someone's style in order to make my success happen. So I think the wonderful part in the Wild Rose energy is that we have the opportunity in these very, very changeable times to not just release the past, but also really look very, very, very deeply what works for us. What is that one thing or that bunch of beautiful new discoveries we can channel into something we are really passionate about, and not just passionate about, it really sets us up for purpose and a story we create, not for ourselves, but with other people, regardless whether this is in our personal lives or whatever we want to do creatively or professionally. And the third card is coming here as the grandmothers, and how beautifully designed these cards are. I mean, it's just such a beautiful deck. And it takes, you know, us back to remembering our roots, perspective and trust the waving. And it is really a time where a lot of ancestral energy is appearing. You know, the feathers appear, the numbers appear. We have all these little signals, you know, all these cosmical vibrations that make noises and give us, you know, little signs of remembrance or of presence of, you know, angels and star beings and ancestral connections that want to be alive for us to be supported on our journey. So I keep these 3 cards energetically in our call today, and I will now tune right into a Q&A. And the 3 questions I have prepared for you are having to do with the past. Number 1 is really about cutting ties of relationships. I'm often asked as love coach, how can I do this? How can I let the past behind? I still have feelings for someone, but I do know it's not really for me anymore. Or if it's not even this conscious, if it's just an emotional burst that is so deep and so energetic in you, that feels like I need to, put this to rest. I cannot, continue suffering or feeling pain in relation to some connection that is simply not right for me any longer. And I want to actually really reveal a secret of what I have learned and have revisited in my personal process very profoundly over the last couple of months. Cutting ties is almost impossible. You can't cut a tie. And I really revisited a lot of processes from amazing teachers and healers that have been produced over the years. And the idea that you cut something and it's gone forever is absolutely non-existent, because on a deeper vibrational level, that relationship or that particular connection, karmically or personally, has still some sort of a meaning or vibrational resonance within our bigger structure of life. So we cannot push this away. The lessons we have learned, which just talked about, the mysteries and the learnings and the lessons, the mystery of an older relationship that is not with us physically anymore, is such a gift to actually understand that what we have learned in the past is something we really want to embrace as a discovery. We not just live in the now, but also bring into the future as something that enhances relationships and gives us something we can really work with when we are facing new dynamics with current partners or new partners, or when we begin to build relationships, even with people we are not intimate with, but just to understand that there's always something we can take from the past and recreate as a reformed lesson into a new way of being. So it's really about discovering that a relationship exists out of thousands of particles that are alive. And some of these particles are some sort of vibrating on a very negative and not very healing and healthy frequency. So it's like creating the pain, creating the suffering. But then there might be other particles that give us a great sense of love and comfort and the remembrance of something that was really very dear and important and wonderfully, fulfilling for us at one stage of our life. And we never want to disregard what happened when we were actually in love with someone who is really deeply important to us, or has been deeply important to us, particularly when we share family or children with one another. So cutting ties is only an interesting process when you are so ready to absolutely not relate to anything and anybody related to this person any longer. And I think how I find life is developing, that's almost impossible. We need to accept the fact that beyond that, past relationships, there's always a particular vibration that we only in purifying it and putting it in almost into a sacred bubble, and then deal with this sacred bubble separately. And I'm developing a process right now, actually, in my work to make this much more evident. I have already created a name for that. I will not speak in detail today, but I will present that new work very soon, because it's almost so real and so energizing for me to bring this into the world and share with other people, because it's almost like an antidote to cutting ties. It has something much more creative and heart-centered attached to it, which we can almost do in stages rather than being forced to cut a relationship of the past off completely. And the healing around that is, the word forgiveness is a biggie, where we can discuss so much about when is forgiveness is really happening. But that's the question for next month. And let's not talk about forgiveness now. I come to a second theme. Question number 2 in our Q&A today is about dating profiles. I want to be really honest. I have been a little bit out there in looking at profiles and seeing what presents itself in my age group. I cannot really speak so much for the younger ones because, I see women like my daughter in her mid and 20s. I see men I coach in their 40s, 50s. And it's probably not as usual as in our age group to modify profiles and make them look better than it probably would look when you meet this person live and face to face. So a big discovery I made just over the last little while is that a lot of people in the 50s into the 60s, and I'll really talk about the mature seekers of love and refinding love, present themselves with very old photos, with made up ages, with some sort of a profile that makes them look a particular way, but lacks incredibly authenticity. And ending up on dates where you see someone absolutely not looking like on the profile photos, who have been, 20 years old on Bumble, on Tinder, or on any of the wonderful apps we're using. It's just a real deal breaker. And as love coach, I cannot emphasize more and more and more how absolutely important it is to not push it too far out. You might have a couple of photos that are a little older, but really showing the real age and being, able to show your gray hair or your bald head or your wrinkles in your face is so much more real than trying to make something up and then having a very negative and a very, very daunting experience when you finally get together. And even if you get to date, that is the biggest art nowadays. You don't get dates anymore. It's not as easy. People, how I described a couple of months ago, I spoke about, the new dating rules in 2022. It has changed massively. People are not just randomly running out and going on dates anymore, particularly in our age groups. I tell you, 50 to 60, we are not wanting to risk sitting somewhere and feeling embarrassed about the fact that we might, nurture desire that we would not want to fulfill with someone who is not at least 80%, give it just a bit of a proportion, vibrationally, not 80%, at least gives us some sense of, resonance that we want to engage in. The third question I want to talk about today is boundaries. And I think something that is coming up as well a lot, not just in dating, but I think generally at the moment is a big theme for humanity, for human beings in their relationships, is really being comfortable and saying, no, here, stop, or look, I have been experiencing this, or this is what coming my way with you. But if I want to be honest, I prefer this way. And a book I want to really, really share. I haven't the copy here in this room right now, but it sits in my office here in Ponsonby in Auckland, just a few doors away from this apartment where I'm staying at the moment. So it's the wonderful, concept of nonviolent communication. And it simply has 4 lines, it's like, I observe, I see, I think, I feel, and I prefer. And the prefer part, the last part, is so big. We need to be able to be honest about what is not in our frequency any longer. If we are pushed to the limit, to wait for someone to respond, to long for someone missing dates, for someone telling us something and then it's not happening, or the simple truth about, habits that affect our own well-being. And I think the ability to say, observe this and this is happening, or this happened once or twice, I think, that could, be a different, I think there could be a different way of resolving this. And I feel, I have the interest to really communicate with you about that. And I prefer that we are engaging in this way. That's just an example. It could be anything we're discussing here, but taking a very observant and very honest and very clear approach and really follow through the 4 stages of letting the other person know that we are conscious, that we have a mental concept about this, that we have a feeling about this, and that we have a suggestion that could help the relationship to bring something into a bigger, exchange of communication and habits that support the relationship, and not creating something that slowly ingrains and then creates over time such deep misunderstanding and ultimately, a no-go. And I think, conscious relating and conscious dating and conscious love is really, really based on these principles, and boundaries are a huge part. And I'm told to take one more card, and that's the card on the bottom of the deck, and it's called The Child Within. It's another one of those beautiful Rose Oracle cards I used today for this full moon in Aries reading. And once again, my apologies, I'm 3 or 4 days delayed, but it's still the vibration of the full moon. I very much feel it. And the inner child, or the child within, is talking about the inner mother, innocence, gentleness, and tenderness. And that really brings me to the ultimate truth that with everything we spoke about today, the purifying, the letting go, the gentle letting go of the particles, we're purifying out of our system to let someone, be, not as codependently bonded to us. That whole idea of being honest and authentic in our dating rituals and how we present us online and offline in our meetings, and ultimately, talking about boundaries. The art is really doing it in gentleness, in lovingness, in acceptance, in compassion for what's going on for other people when they are confronted. And sometimes it creates reactions that they feel very offended by hearing that there is a boundary, or that the relationship is not the right relationship any longer. But I think, doing it a gentle and a more discerning and quiet, innocent way. Innocence is not to do with being not conscious or being, not connected to the truth of it. Innocence is the openness, the willingness to let something channel through in compassion and in real deep acceptance. So I hope that this card is inspiring you. Look at this beautiful motherly figure, and I wish you with all my heart a wonderful month of October 2022. By the time we're meeting again, Sun will be in Scorpio. I hope and I trust to be back in Bali next month for our next full moon reading and Q&A. And if there's anything I can help you with, down in the description box here on YouTube, you'll find a link to my calendar where you can book a complimentary 30 minutes with me. I'm always available to discuss your, not just your love life, but maybe any, relational or business or career or creative related, questions. And, coming to Bali and joining me for one of my retreats, or even better, if you are in this area here in New Zealand or Australia, I will run from the 16th to the 20th February 2023, a Valentine's Love Coach retreat here in New Zealand. So I look forward to connecting with each one of you, and I hope you have a wonderful month with lots of enthusiasm, creativity, and more than anything, unconditional love in everything you create for yourself and with others. Namaste. Thank you so much.